Welcome to the Rhonda Grant Show with your host, Rhonda Grant. If you believe that there is more to life than what you see right now, and you want to find out more, listen in as her guests share their journey and their extraordinary experiences. Now, here is your host, Rhonda Grant.
Welcome. We are so pleased that you have joined us. It is here that we will uncover if my guest has had extraordinary discoveries in her life. The theme song for the Rhonda Grant Show is Sun on the Water, composed and performed by John Park Wheeler. My guest today is Heather Driscoll, who is a mindset coach as well as an intuitive. In essence, Heather is a healer, but she is also a teacher of empowerment and leadership. That means that she can help you directly. Her mission is to also teach you how to continue to uplift yourself higher and higher because you're always your own best healer. Welcome, Heather.
Hi, how are you?
I'm well. How are you doing?
I'm fantastic. Fantastic.
Great. I'm sure that our listeners are as intrigued as I am that you are a healer. Were you born with this gift or were you taught?
No, I was definitely born as a healer. Since a young age, I'm what you call an intuitive empath. So for those of you that don't know what an empath is, I have the ability to feel other people's emotions. I feel like there's a lot of empaths and people don't know what it is, what the term is, but I have the ability and did since I was young. I can really kind of tune into someone's energy and feel exactly what they're feeling, whether they're anxious or happy and excited or sad. And I used to compensate for that when I was little. Like if one of my friends was embarrassed, I would be able to like come around and try to make them feel better immediately because I knew that they were embarrassed. And then I also, when I was young, would see spirits by my bed. They would wake me up, and I definitely was born this way. I was born with this gift.
Heather, did you find it overwhelming that you were able to feel other people's emotions?
I did. For a long time, I'll say that I didn't know that I was feeling other people's emotions. Yes. I thought everybody kind of felt the way I felt. Like, I growing up, like, especially through high school, I looking back, always attracted people to me that were wounded in some way, didn't have a good family upbringing, had a horrible childhood. And they were just kind of drawn to me, and I could always feel like the deep sadness with them and the anxiety. A lot of them had anxiety and a lot of fears. And for a long time, I always felt that in my life. And then I started noticing that when I would leave the person, I would be fine. I would be happy. I would be okay. And it took a little bit for me to kind of tune in, probably I would say like my early 20s, where I was like, wait a second, am I actually feeling someone else's emotions? Mm-hmm. And that's what really started, opening it up to me, like, wow, I can feel other people's emotions. And it's a big weight. It still is. I have to be very, very careful, especially coaching. Helping people. Mm-hmm. I have to really be aware of my energy centers and my field of, I call it my little safety bubble, so that I can allow their energy to kind of flow through me and not stay with me. Because when I was young, it would stay with me, and I wouldn't know how to get rid of their energy and give it back to them. So, because I feel like that we all have stuff to process, and it's ours to process. Mm-hmm. So it's important if you are an empath and you're holding it, to give it back to the person so that they can actually process it, which is what they came here to do, I believe.
Yes. And a lot of people don't realize, though, that these emotions that they have, or the healing that needs to be done inside their body, they're carrying that as energy. And when they talk about it, the energy, the frequency of the energy goes higher, and that's how you were able to feel that, right?
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah. And now that I know what I'm working with, I've studied with a lot of teachers, in the US from, Sonia Choquette, who's a intuitive, and a bunch of other teachers, worked with them one-on-one, where I really kind of had to get a grasp on myself and what was happening with me, and how do I channel what the information that I'm getting about people. And a lot of people don't want to know. I found out, like, if I know what's really going on with them, sometimes I can go deep enough that it's not even in a conscious part of them. And they're not really aware of they're not really aware of, why this problem's happening. They just look at it on the surface, and I can actually go deep enough to really kind of see what the problem is, even if it goes back to childhood for them. And that, I have to be very careful sometimes, because sometimes people don't. That's why it's subconscious still. They're not ready to work on it. So it's kind of like I use that in my coaching now, where they give me permission to kind of dive deep. And that's what I say, like, I do an intuitive deep dive with them and get really deep into, you come to me for this problem, but I'm feeling from you that this is what it is. And let's start here. So
you came with this gift, and you spent most of your, childhood and adolescence not realizing that other people didn't have this gift. And a lot of people who have special abilities find that out later.
Yeah,
and
absolutely.
And so when you found out, is it true that you had to learn how to protect yourself first before you could really use that gift to the best of its ability?
Absolutely. I shut it down. So when I got to a point where I got pregnant when I was 17 with my daughter, and her biological father was just very wounded, and he was very depressed and just, emotionally and physically abusive. And I spent a good portion of my, 15 to, I'd say, like 21, I called it off with him. But looking back, all of the emotions that I felt were his, and it became so much between seeing spirits or feeling energies, and then feeling his emotions, and everybody, that I just was like, I'm done. I get rid of it. I don't want to feel this anymore. So I just kind of numbed out and shut it down.
Right.
And
to protect yourself.
To protect myself, because it was just overload. It was like raw nerves. Just everything was raw to me. And that's really what I'm called, as a raw empath, where I can go in and I can actually feel people's emotions like I'm them. So I can, if somebody's really sad, I immediately will start to get this like lump in my throat, and all of a sudden tears will form in my eyes, or I sometimes feel physical. I can feel physical symptoms, or if I know that someone needs to speak their truth and they're not speaking their truth, all of a sudden my throat will start to close up, and like I can't talk. So I get actual physical symptoms in my body that is theirs. So that was another thing too, where I wanted to shut it down, because I was getting chronic headaches, and I was not feeling well a lot, and none of it was mine. So I spent a good portion just kind of shutting it down, I'd say from like probably 15 years old up until my early 20s, where I started, seeing people standing over me again. I mean, I have mediumship abilities, and I don't use that a lot, but I have the ability to connect in with spirits. So when that started again, it was kind of like, all right, there's something going on here. I need to really start to work with this.
Right. And so when you say medium or spirits.
Mm-hmm.
Is it a connection that you feel them, or do you see them? What does that look like?
For me, I function. I mean, we all have what's called clairs. So there's clairvoyance, which is clear seeing. So they're basically the five senses that we have. Our five physical senses in the physical world, and then there's five senses. There's actually more, but the main five senses that we function with on a spiritual realm.
Okay.
And so they are too, like clairvoyance is clear seeing. So I've actually seen spirits, like, so deceased people that have crossed over. And then there's clairaudience, which is hearing. So you're talking the same senses that we have in the physical. There's sight, there's hearing, there's smell, there's taste, and there's touch. And so I function in clairvoyance and I function in clairaudience. Those two really kind of go hand in hand. And they say that there is usually a dominant one. And if I were to pick the dominant one for me, it would be clairaudience. I hear things all the time and it comes in like a thought to me. Mm-hmm. And the more I describe this, the more people will go, hey, I think that might have happened to me, because we all have these. We all function this way. We just have never heard it defined in this way. But so it will come in like a thought. So if I'm talking to someone and like I have a client whose husband has died, and I was talking to her and working with her the other day, and I could hear him saying something to me that I needed to say to her. And so it comes in like I hear it, and then it's a thought like, you need to say this to her. And then I say it. So that's probably my strongest clair. But there's also like, people will all of a sudden have a taste in their mouth. They can taste like, grandma's apple pie. All of a sudden, oh my gosh, I taste something. Or you smell roses and that, or some sort of a flower that was your deceased mother's favorite flower. And then there's clairsentience, which is just, it's the clear knowing. Like, have you ever been like, I don't know how I know this, but I just know this.
Yes.
It's just, I just know this. Mm-hmm. And that I get that a lot too. So they all kind of work hand in hand with each other, but usually the dominant three are the knowing, the hearing, and the seeing.
Mm-hmm. It's fascinating. And it really is. I've had a couple of times in my life where for some reason, thoughts have come over me. I've been sitting with somebody and I just start telling them what's going to happen in their life. Yeah. And by goodness, it happens. Yeah. And it's not like I can will this to happen. It just, it comes, it just comes to me, and then I feel compelled to let that person know. Yeah. And I say to them, I don't know how I know this. I didn't know this before now. It's just come to me, and I'm supposed to tell you this. Yeah. And it's incredible.
Psychic abilities.
Yeah, it's incredible. And so is that the type of thing that you're talking about?
Yeah, I mean, I have that. Actually, that happens to me a lot with babies for some reason. Babies.
Oh, fantastic.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. I can sense when a baby's around. So, and what I will say is I can sense a baby around, whether the baby's going to be born or the baby never was born, but is on the other side, whether, whatever happened, miscarried, aborted, or whatever. I can feel the energy of babies. And that's happening a lot more frequently to me now. That happened to me with my daughter, where 9 months before she got pregnant, I knew she was going to have a baby, and I knew the sex of it, and I knew she was coming within the next year. So kind of spoiled the fact that I knew I was going to be a grandma for the first time.
Okay.
Yeah. So, and she's pregnant with her now. And what happens with me now is I'll just be sitting in a meditation and I can see her face. So I know that she's connecting with me. Mm-hmm. And I know that she's preparing to be born, and I can just see her and I can feel her energy. So,
and this is awesome happening. Yeah. And this is happening all of the time. And it just, it is just if that person, like you, for instance, is able to have the gift to realize that, to feel that, to see that, right?
Yeah. And I think the problem with a lot of people not understanding this is just that they just don't understand what a lot of people will chalk it off. They're like, I wonder why I had that thought. That's so weird. Why would I think that? Or I didn't just see that. That's weird, because when I do get a vision or when I do see a spirit, the way I describe it to people is like when you have a dream and you recall the dream and you're telling your friend and you say, oh my gosh, I got to tell you about this dream I had. And you start to describe the dream. It's like a movie playing in your mind's eye. You can see every detail and you can describe everything and the colors and where you were. And that's what happens when I see things or when I hear things and I'm told something about a person. It's almost like I can see a movie reel playing in my head, and it'll, sometimes it's connected to their past. Like if they had an incident happen when they were in childhood that I can link to the problem of where they are now, I can see it playing like a movie, and then I'll ask them about it. So that's incredible. That's what happens. Yeah. So that's what ends up happening to me. So, and I've learned to kind of shut it down when I'm not really working, because it does get annoying. I have, because I mean, it's really like, I'll be standing in the grocery store and the person in front of me, I'm like, oh, you're not really a good husband, are you? Like I start getting information about people and I'm like, okay, I don't need to know that. What am I going to do with it? It's not like I'm going to go to him and be like, listen, you really need to stop cheating on your wife. It's not okay. Like I can't do anything with the information. And it's really kind of the rule where, like I said, when I work with my clients and they sign up for coaching with me and we talk, I mean, they give me permission to go in deep. And so to do that to somebody unwarranted and just kind of approach them and be like, excuse me, are you really that much of a jerk? No, it's not appropriate. So no, I don't do that. So I've learned to kind of, if I start to get information, I'll just be like, okay, let it run through you and just go on with your business. And I won't hold the information. I kind of just dump it.
Yeah, because that's definitely the type of skill that you could take home and take to the grocery store and take wherever you wanted, really.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
So it must be hard to actually turn that switch off. I mean, in the corporate world, you go to work and you come home and you try not to think about it or talk about it, and of course that's why you have so much stress. But you learn over the years to open the door and close the door. Yes. But with a gift like yours, it's pretty, I would think it would be pretty tough to close that.
Yeah, it really is, especially like for me, I'd say the hardest time for me to tune off. I'm extremely close with my husband. Him and I are very connected. So intuitively, I don't even need to be around him. And all of a sudden, if he's stressed out about something or if he's anxious about something, all of a sudden I'm like anxious for no reason. And it happens with my children too. I immediately will pick up, because it's such a heightened change in my physical body that it's like a humming for me, where I'm like, okay, this isn't mine. I wasn't even thinking about anything that would stress me out. So I need to find out whose it is. And if I'm not working with a client and that happens to me, it's either one of my children or my husband. So that's hard for me, because that just comes on. It's just because I'm so connected to them that I can just feel the vibration from them. So,
right.
But it's also been a hard thing for me too, I will say, as an empath, I can intuit people's feelings, emotions. And so especially in my 20s and young marriage life, turned me into a people pleaser. Like it turned me into, yes. I have to make sure that they're okay, because it wasn't just dealing with my feelings and my emotions. I was carrying theirs too. And so it was like, I really need to make sure they're okay, because this is the most uncomfortable feeling in the world. It's a lot of emotion. And so I was constantly like making sure everybody was okay. That was probably the biggest thing. Like, people would say to me, stop asking me if I'm okay. You know, when I was young.
It sounds like it was exhausting for you for quite some time there.
It was extremely exhausting for me, extremely exhausting, because it was a physical thing too, you know, where it was like, I was constantly like making sure my kids were okay, making sure my husband was okay on an emotional level. And then we had physical, you know, businesses to run and take care of. And so it was just constantly running. And I would say over the past 5 years, I really started doing a lot of work on myself, meditating and really connecting into my stuff, their stuff. I don't have to fix it.
Right.
They can fix themselves. And that's a very, I'm good with my clients now. Like, I'm really like, I can disconnect to the point where I can become the observer with them and just like kind of hone in and know exactly where they are, what they need. And if they're, you know, usually the clients I work with are really good about doing the work, because I give a lot of homework with my coach. So if they're, you know, really doing the work, then I can release that. Like, I don't need to take care of them. They come back the next week. We work on what they did over the week, and whatever problems they have, I can easily help them through it. It's more my family that it's kind of hard to disconnect from and be like, oh, my kids really can handle this situation. I don't need to take care of everything and make sure everything's okay all the time. So, and my husband too. And they've gotten really good at me like, okay, it's time to let it go, Heather. Like, they notice for me.
And there'll be people listening that have some of these skills. I know I have some of the skills, and
Absolutely.
I found that when I paid attention, one of the biggest things for me is intuition. And, you know, an intuition, for those who don't know, it's thoughts that or feelings that come into your body that turn into thoughts. And those thoughts, if you pay attention to them, take action, because they just come in and they whisper, and you've got to make a record of it, because when it's gone, it's gone. They're not going to knock on your door again and say, do you remember yesterday when I gave you that message? It's gone. And if you're driving, it's hard to, you know, write it down, but you must take heed, because sometimes these are warnings. They are indications of what you should be doing. For crying out loud, it might be a whole paragraph for your book, and you just want to pull over and write it down, you know?
Exactly.
Right. And so that's, and the thing is, if you ignore it, it stops coming, because you stop paying attention to it.
Yeah. And that's mind, kind of the shutdown. That's kind of that shutdown.
That's that shutdown. And your mind is always, you know, unless you're meditating, your mind is your roommate that keeps telling you a whole lot of things all day long. And so it's hard sometimes to differentiate between intuition and what your mind is just telling you, right?
Absolutely. Absolutely. And it literally, I mean, I don't know one person that hasn't had at some point in their life a moment where they go, oh, I should have listened to myself.
I should have listened.
Why didn't I listen to myself? I had the feeling I should have done it, you know? And I mean, I have a girlfriend who had that with a car accident. She heard, don't take a left, don't take a left. Take a right, go right. And she was like, no, right's longer. Having the argument with herself, and she didn't listen, and she got into an accident. So it's the override.
It is. Yeah. And the dash of magic that it is, but there's a part of us that we have that self-preservation, and the intuition's there to guide us, warn us, you know. And that's the biggest thing, you know. You walk in somewhere, and you think something's just not right here, but you say, your brain just takes a hold of it and says, no, there's nothing here wrong. Everything's okay. But in fact, you find out later that I should have listened. I shouldn't have went there. I shouldn't have done that. And all of those things. So that's the intuition part. And a lot of people, the reason I'm talking more about intuition is simply because a lot of people do have that. But, with this clairvoyance, have you heard of remote viewing, Heather?
Oh yeah, I've done remote viewing. It's awesome. It's pretty fun. Yeah, it's a neat experience. It absolutely is a neat experience.
Mm-hmm. And the government has hired people to do remote viewing. I mean, Stargate was one of the most, the infamous program that the United States government had. And
Russell Targ.
Yeah, Russell Targ. Yeah, he's still alive too.
Yeah, I know. He just released a movie on this whole topic and this whole Spies Like Us. I think it's called something like that.
Okay. Awesome.
Yeah, it's a new release. Yeah, it's really incredible story. And they trained psychics to remote view so that they could get in and on our enemies and spy on them, basically, with their minds.
Yeah, you can go and take a look and see what they're doing and then bring it back. And yeah, what a job that would be. You just have to sit there and go places, right?
I know, exactly.
So what a gift, though, that you've done, Heather. You've taken something that at some times was a real burden to you, and you've turned it into a business. Like, what an entrepreneur you are. You've turned it into a coaching business to help others find their way and their journey.
Yeah, absolutely. Go ahead.
What is the name of your business, Heather?
I have my coaching business, which is Heather Driscoll Coaching. And then my mom and I have because my mom is one of my great teachers too. Her and I are extremely close. And we have a spiritual learning center called Back to Eden. Beautiful. And it's we actually have a physical location where we hold workshops, and she teaches and I teach, and we also I coach on Zoom, especially now with the pandemic. Done more coaching on Zoom than I have live.
Well, yes, and thank God we have have Zoom.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, the pandemic is doing good too, even though people may not see that. It's definitely calling people to go within. That's for sure.
Yes. Well, there's a whole shift in human consciousness.
Absolutely.
That started a few years ago, and with the pandemic, a lot of people have are finding out more of who they are because they're not going outside to check with other people to see what they're wearing looks okay and how their hair should they look the same as other people. You know what I mean? Absolutely. So we end up spending more time with ourselves. So how do people reach you? And I'm going to ask you at the end of the call, but I think that if people are listening right now, they might grab a pen and write down how they can reach you, Heather.
Sure. They can call or text me, and I'll give you my phone number. It's area code 860, and I'm in the U.S. I'm in Connecticut in the USA. It's area code 860-634-2196. And you can also find me we're on Instagram. I'm on Facebook under Heather Driscoll Coach, and also my website, which is enlightenmentmethod.com. Wonderful.
Yeah. And so you're a certified intuitive personal life empowerment coach.
Mm-hmm. I'm also a certified, HeartMath coach.
HeartMath coach.
Yeah.
What is a HeartMath coach?
So HeartMath is it's a whole thing within itself, where there's a resonance between the heart and the mind, and it's basically saying that your heart is your main brain, and the monkey mind brain that we have between our eyes needs to calm down. And it's the syncing between, it's called coherence, where you sync between the heart and the brain and calm the body. And there's a technique to doing that. where you become coherent so that you calm your whole physical body, your mind, your brain, everything. And you're just able to function through life so much better than just using the brain between your eyes.
And how does that happen? What's the process? What process are people going through in order to get to this point?
For HeartMath? Mm-hmm. Is that what yeah. Well, they have a lot of tools that you actually hook up and it reads your heart rate.
Oh, I see.
Yeah, it's amazing. So you hook it up, like you can hook it to your ear or you hook it to your finger and it monitors your heart rate. And they have these tools where you're supposed to breathe in for a certain amount of time and breathe out. And basically you're controlling the breath and it syncs up with the heart rate. And it slows everything down and makes it all completely coherent. But you can actually look down and see it on a screen. So you can see that you are in coherence, which the tool itself is amazing. And then there's tools that we use to get you to that state of coherence where you have to kind of think about a moment that you have never been happier in your life and get into that moment of happiness. And then you have to breathe in through your heart. So you would kind of picture the air as you're taking your breath in, going into your heart and then exhaling it back out of your heart.
Right.
In your heart while you're thinking about this happy memory, and it instantly puts you in coherence. And so for me, like energetically, I know that you cannot be in happy and sad at the same time.
Right.
So you're pulling yourself energetically, vibrationally, you're raising your vibration. And that raise of the vibration into happy or, peaceful is making you become coherent with your heart rate and your breath. And it's putting you at a state of ease.
And just in case people don't understand, raising your vibration or raising your frequency, are you able to break that down, Heather?
So really what I tell people is scientifically, we're energy. That's been proven. We're slow moving energy. And so every type of energy vibrates. So if we're slow moving energy and the vibration of anger or sadness or some sort of type of depression, it's a lower vibration. And that's why you'll see someone who's depressed kind of with their head hung low and not a lot of energy, and they don't really talk fast and they're not excited at all. But as you raise the vibration, meaning like you raise your mood, which moods come from thoughts. So it's really raising the thought to a higher frequency. And that frequency would be, I'm kind of upset right now, but I don't like where I feel. I'm going to, turn the radio channel. That's a frequency, right? And I'm going to change it to happy FM instead of angry FM. and I start thinking about, so go back to the thoughts. I start thinking about thoughts that make me happy. And when I think about thoughts that make me happy, there's no way at the same time I can think about thoughts that make me angry. So I'm changing my frequency, which is raising my vibration. And when you raise the vibration, when somebody's happy, they have a lot more energy and they talk a little bit faster and a little bit louder and they have life inside them and you can feel it. And it's infectious because when you're around somebody who's in a great mood all the time and they're so vibrant and they're happy, you want to be around them because they're bringing so much life and energy to the room. And that's infectious. And so is depression, I will tell you. When you hang around somebody who's sad all the time and negative all the time, and you can feel it in your own energy field.
Yeah, it's hard being in the company of people that have those characteristics because their energy is they're vibrating at a low frequency, right?
Right.
And when we breathe into our heart actually, the energy around us, how far does it expand? Like 9 feet?
Yeah, that's just your auric field.
That's
I mean, that's just the auric field. We've got a lot of other, we've got the causal field. We've got all different, the emotional body. I mean, there's all different.
What is the causal field?
It's more like the thoughts, where
Okay.
the thoughts are held and changing the thought frequencies that are coming in. So, and that changes the emotional body and then comes into the auric field. And it's just like all these layers that we have around us.
Right. That we don't even know about. We just get up in the morning and have our shower and go to work.
Yeah. And a lot of people just say, oh, I'm in a bad mood because, this is what happened to me yesterday and I'm still upset about it. And this is the way I feel. So that can't be changed, which is not true. I mean, it's been documented that we think on average, I think it's 60 to 70,000 thoughts a day. And of those thoughts, 90% are the same exact thoughts as we thought the day before.
Yeah.
And like 95% are negative.
Right. And so it's time to change it up. Just
absolutely.
kind of shake it up a little bit and think up. And that's why it's good to continue to keep stimulated with different activities, reading and music raises your vibrational energy if you,
absolutely.
But it's easy, Heather, for people to get into a slump and they don't even know that they're in it until they come out of it.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
They don't recognize it. And
even if they do recognize it, they have been that way for so long, they don't even know how to even start to get out of it. It's just so, because we pattern since we're little. And then it's just, how many times do people say, well, it's who I am. It's just how I am. If you don't like it, too bad. This is who I am.
Mm-hmm. Well, and I mean, people handcuff themselves to themselves because they don't know another way and they don't want to try. They, it's a disempowering place to be. Yeah. Which is too bad, but I'm really, really thrilled that you do what you do because, I wish there was more people like you, Heather, that were able to help people that are stuck or have bad things that have happened in their lives that they only think about before they go to sleep at night, or they think about in the morning and then it disappears again.
Right.
And so it's just a wonderful gift that you've came here with and harnessed.
Yes.
And, and are able to, and you're able to help as many people that you do. Now, your website, which website is it that you have a free offering, Heather?
Yeah. So I offer a free half-hour consultation to work with you in my coaching. I have 3 coaching programs. It's enlightenmentmethod.com. And what I do is offer that free consultation because I see if you're going to be a fit for me as a coach, and I want you to see if I'm going to be a fit for you. So it's the best way for people to really kind of say, this is what I'm going through right now. I don't know if you're going to be a fit for me, but what do you think? And we can both make that decision. And I think that's the best way to do it, because nobody wants to pay for something and then be like, ugh, I don't like them. How many times have we been there? Like, oh, can't believe I bought that.
Yeah. Well, the thing is too, is it gives a little insight for people if they're kind of scared to try it, maybe have some reservations. If they just have that half hour with you, they'll find out enough whether they want to, continue with it, if they feel it's going to be beneficial to them. Because I know a lot of times that people are downright afraid to try new things.
Absolutely.
Right.
Well, and I find more so than anything, people are afraid to deal with and face the problem because they don't want the pain. They don't. I mean, we spend our lives stuffing down the pain and trying to run from pain so we don't have to feel it and we don't have to deal with those emotions. And, that's the kind of work that I do. I get down into the deep stuff where it's like, once you start to process those, man, your whole life becomes free. You don't have to hold it anymore.
It's life-changing.
It is life-changing. It is.
Yeah.
So many people hold that in their bodies physically, and that's tough.
Oh, yes. That's true. And it takes a lot of bravery and a lot of courage. It's took you a lot of bravery and a lot of courage to do what you do, Heather. Yeah. And it does take a lot of bravery and courage and guts, for your people that you're helping to heal themselves at the essence of their soul, really, the essence of their being, to be able to take their light out into the world and help other people.
That's exactly what I want to teach people how to do. I mean, that's for me, it's like, and you never, right? You wouldn't even know that there was light if it wasn't for dark. So to get to the light, we got to go through the dark, and it's worth it.
So worth it. So Heather, do you feel that you've been called to do the work that you're doing?
I feel like I came in like I had a plan, and when I came in, it was like, this is what's going to happen. I'm definitely called, but I feel like, when I incarnated, I believe that this was my path. Like and I could see that looking back now from such a young age, like I said before, where I had friends, all of my friends had just horrible childhoods and horrible family lives. And I had this great childhood and great family life with two parents that have been married for almost 50 years now. And,
wow.
It was like, why are these people coming to me? It was just like the precursor for like, okay, get ready. You're going to need to know how to handle problems. And like, this is what's really out there for people. And this is how you can help them. And so I feel like I definitely was called. I mean, I remember being like 19 or 20 years old, just having this knowing that I was going to help people all over the world. Like it was like, no, this is what I'm going to do. Didn't know what form it would take, but I mean, now I look at it and I'm like, I'm creating a soul school. For me, that's my ultimate goal, is to have this, it's called a soul school, where people learn how to get back to their souls and find what they're here for. What did I come here to do? Because we're all here on a mission.
We all are here on a mission. And apparently we were very excited before we came here because of the work that we were going to do. Right?
Yeah.
And but I mean, there's people that believe and don't believe in these types of things. Yeah. And, but
I know. I have a lot of clients that go, no way would I ever pick this life. No way.
Well, the thing is, they personally wouldn't have picked the life, but it doesn't have to do with them. It has to do with their souls, soul and their soul journey.
Absolutely.
And what we have, the ideas that we have that we want to do with our life might not be the ideas that our soul has. And sometimes that's why we try to do something and we just keep on coming up against a brick wall, because maybe that's the obstacle we're supposed to overcome, but maybe we need to pay more attention to how to get through, over or under the walls that are in front of us.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Sure. Very well said.
What extraordinary, thank you, Heather. What a wonderful conversation we're having. Oh, I just love it.
I know.
We met years ago and we just fell in love with each other then.
Yeah, it's awesome.
Yes. So what extraordinary discoveries have you found in your life? Or have you found an extraordinary discovery?
Yeah. I would say the most extraordinary discovery came on, I'll tell you a quick story. It was a breakup. I was 25 years old. I was a single mom. My daughter was 6 years old. And I had a lot of limiting beliefs about myself. And I had I'm going to be alone for the rest of my life. Nobody's ever going to want to be with me. I have a child. I'm going to be broke forever. I mean, and so that's what was showing up in my life. every thought I had was like, oh, here you go. There it is. Yeah. And then one week I had a bankruptcy foreclosure on my condo notice, and my car got repossessed. And then my boyfriend and I had broken up. And it was like every fear that I had feared came true in 1 week. And so my sister flew me out to Chicago to go be with her because I was like in mental breakdown state. Right. And in the airport on the way home, I saw a book that it was called The Creative Visualization Workbook by Shakti Gawain. And in an airport, like I've never, ever seen a book like this. This is like divine intervention for me. This is the moment of aha, where I saw the book. I was so drawn to it, and it was a workbook. And I was like, what the heck is this? And so I started reading it, and it was use the power of your imagination to create what you want in your life. And I was like, no way. It doesn't work. All right, it does. Let's try it. And so for the next 3 months, I worked. My daughter was 6, and she would work with me. Every night after work, I would lay with her on the living room floor, and we would cut out pictures in magazines of the husband I wanted and what I wanted him to say to me, and the house that I would have, and my horses I would have, and just like got really big. It was like a 1-year plan, a 5-year plan, a 10-year. And I just kept being like, this is so much fun. And I was in the energy of like, make believe, I guess, like it
possibility.
And like, really, your thoughts really do change things. Mm-hmm. And so the biggest thing for me was, I'm actually looking at the page right now where I cut out in that magazine. It said, where have you been all my life? Because it was the one thing that I wanted my future husband to say to me, because I wanted to know that he was looking for me just as hard as I had been looking for him.
Wow.
And so I put that down, and underneath it, there's a woman in a wedding dress. And I wrote, I love my husband and being married, and just like all these positive things. And so I let it go. And turns out my husband was my next door neighbor. He lived there for 2 years, and I never met him. I was dating somebody else. He was dating somebody else. And my daughter went out to kick a soccer ball one evening. I was cooking dinner, and I heard her talking to somebody, and I looked out, and he was kicking the soccer ball around with her. And, I went outside, and we started talking, and I was like, wow, we have a cute neighbor. Like, wow, when did that happen? Long story short, we went on 3 dates, which he asked, when can I take you and your daughter on a date? And he took us fishing. And on our 3rd date, we were sitting down together, and he said, where have you been all my life?
No way.
It was the moment of, you've got to be kidding me.
Exactly.
Your thoughts really do. When you, like Wayne Dyer says, when you change the way you look at things, the things you look at change.
Yeah.
And I had been looking at things like, I'm never going to have, I'm always going to be broke. I'm never going to meet somebody that's going to want to be with me. And I spent the last 3 months visualizing the man that I wanted to meet. And it was just like, he was my next door neighbor of all things for 2 years. And I never knew him. And so needless to say, everything else in the book happened. Everything that I wrote down, from my horse farm to this business now that I have created, everything that I have written down has happened.
What a testimonial, Heather. That's fantastic. And it's so easy for people to subscribe to the negative words, like I'll never have this, and be down and believe, and then that happens. But you just change it and look at the kind of life, like you went from bankruptcy and all of that to look where you are today.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
Because
my husband and I created,
thoughts.
we created a business, extremely successful business together, and beautiful house and horse farm and 3 beautiful children. And I mean, I love my life. I really, that's the one thing that I feel like for me as a coach, I need to be authentic with my people that I work with.
Oh, yes. That's wonderful.
Like, listen, I'm not afraid to tell you about the crap that I've been through. And I'm not afraid to tell you that I've been there and I've had those thoughts and my life was horrible. But I did the work to get to where I am now.
Well, yeah, you're the walking, talking example.
Yeah. And that's what I like to work with my people.
Mm-hmm. How wonderful.
Yeah.
Where can people reach you again, Heather? I'm sure people are going to be texting and calling you and emailing you. Let us know, Heather.
Sure. So phone number is area code 860-634-2196. You can text or call. And then my website is enlightenmentmethod.com, all lowercase, all one word. Then you can find me on Instagram, Heather Driscoll Coach. You can find me on Facebook, same thing, Heather Driscoll Coach. And email is driscoll.h@gmail.com.
Thank you. And it's Driscoll. 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 Two double L's there.
Correct.
Thank you so much to my extraordinary guest, Heather Driscoll. She has lots to tell, had a lot to teach us today, and she's got a lot more to teach anybody who would like to reach out to her. This is Rhonda Grant with The Rhonda Grant Show, author of Magical Forces Within, Extraordinary Discoveries in an Ordinary Life, inviting you to look for the magical forces within yourself today and every day. Thank you, Heather.
Thank you.
Thanks for tuning in to The Rhonda Grant Show with your host, Rhonda Grant. If you would like to find out more information about Rhonda and her upcoming guests and the work that she does, go to her website, rhondagrantauthor.com. That's rhondagrantauthor.com.